Hello, this is Bill Farmer, 5th District Urban County Council member, welcoming you to another very special edition of Lexplore. Today we've come to someplace very new and very old in the district, the original Clay Spring. Stay with me. Welcome back. I've been joined by Michelle Kosteniak from the Division of Parks and Recreation, and I always ask you your title because I never remember it.
Sure, Superintendent of Planning and Design.
So that really does cover a lot, doesn't it?
It does.
And there's a more full staff out there now than there has been too, isn't there?
There is. We have grown twice-fold in the last couple of years. We now have 3 of us that do design and planning.
That's right.
And we have 3 of us that do project management.
And see, is the key thing, was whenever there's an opportunity within council or within and budget for things to happen, you all get slammed with a bunch of things to design, but never anybody to do them. And that's been the big change here.
Correct.
So this is really the outcome of an opportunity the council took advantage of to do little things around each district. And some maybe more or less inventive or interesting, and you'd been kind enough to submit several ideas, and we took action on more than one of them. But in that conversation, you had talked about trying to resurface this historic spring, and so I have to say that we're sitting in front of your outcome. I'm glad to have helped, but this was a thing that you started. Just give me a little background.
Sure. Well, we really appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
I started at Parks 20 years ago, and one of my first projects was to remove a structure that had been built prior. And unfortunately, it had ceased to be very aesthetically pleasing.
You mean on this site?
On this site.
Really? No.
Yes, and it was holding water, and so in the summer, the water wasn't moving, and it was breeding mosquitoes, so we didn't really have a choice for public safety but to remove it.
All right.
And it was unfortunate, though, because it was actually conveying the spring water. And as you mentioned, this is Clay Spring, which was part of Henry Clay's estate.
Yes.
And so we always thought it would be very nice to come back and reinterpret that and be able to put something in place that the water would move, not breed mosquitoes, and be a really aesthetically pleasing part of the park.
Keep it moving.
Yes.
So where was the structure in relation to where we are now?
It was pretty close to where you see it built behind us.
Okay.
But it was made of concrete block, and it was meant as more, I would say it was in the style of a little fish pond. It was meant to be deep and just hold the water, and I think maybe someone told me they may have even put goldfish in there at one point. So the neighborhood. So
that's very interesting.
It probably was very nice when it was functioning properly, but over time it had ceased to function properly. Some of the blocks had broken. So it was just time to redo it. But at the time we didn't have the money to redo it, so we just took it out, made it safe by covering it all up. And the spring was actually making its way into a storm sewer.
Just on its own?
Just on its own. And so, but I always kept in my back pocket that I wanted to come back and do this properly. And so you gave us that opportunity.
Well, it's been a nice, what has been done is absolutely stunning.
Yes.
In relation to there being just no amenity down here. This is now not just a place, but a special place that has more interpretive opportunity that we'll kind of cede to in the future. But I know that the Henry Clay Estate folks are excited about it because it really gives them an interpretive opportunity that's away from the main house. But I don't know, the pocket parks are really important in Lexington. I know you all do work in others, but this idea was great.
Thanks.
I can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll have something else in the future when we get another opportunity.
Well, I wanted to mention that we're still working on the last piece of the project, which is an interpretive sign,
okay,
which will allow people to see a modern map of roads as they're named today, overlaid with the estate, so that they can understand the far reaches and extent of Henry Clay's original estate. And
that's wonderful.
Today it seems like you're very far away from what we know as Ashland, but it will show you that in actuality we're really close on that property. So
is that something that would go here then?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it'll be located near the spring, and it'll be put in. We're still finishing the final artwork,
okay,
but we should have that in the next 6 months.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to work with you. You're the
too.
best. Stay with us. We'll be right back. So now it's my pleasure to welcome Russ Turpin. Russ.
Hey.
How are you?
Great.
Tell me your company's name again, because I don't remember.
EcoGrow.
You all have been a really welcome addition. I was unaware of the kind of work you all do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just tell us then for a minute, because I think that would be good.
Well, we do a lot of work focusing on water,
mm-hmm.
stormwater, and soils. So we do a lot of work specializing in stormwater mitigation or stormwater management.
Really?
A lot of ecological restoration work. One example of our projects we've got underway is the Cold Stream project, the SEP, for part of the consent decree.
Oh, yes.
So we're doing a big, wide...
That's big.
It's big. Doing a big, wide stream restoration out there. And we do a lot of smaller projects like this.
I was going to ask, I mean, do you balance it out with some little ones?
We've got big ones, we got little ones. We got all kinds of sizes that, and we just kind of roll from one to the next. We've done a lot of work with the stormwater grants. We do a lot of work with different neighborhood associations.
That's a great part of the consent decree, of those grants.
It's fantastic.
There's a lot of neighborhoods involved, a lot of little things done, kind of like this, that might get overlooked, but tell the story of the stormwater problem and how we're remedying it over this consent decree period, along with sanitary sewer at the same time.
Yeah, so we've got some projects that are commercial, industrial in scale, and then some projects that are neighborhood sized.
Well, I just need to tell you, I mean, for what I think we invested here, you all have outperformed any investment we put up, because this looks much better than, I had no vision of what we were going to do, which is a great way to be.
I've had a vision and it worked out better than I envisioned too. So.
No kidding?
Yeah.
All right, so
it's worked out really well.
What was the first surprise when you came up here to kind of survey around?
Well,
or the most interesting or something, you know?
Yeah, just working with springs, you never really know what you're going to find. In terms of, especially, so much has happened in this area, dealing with the water.
Oh.
So, you know, what has been disturbed or changed over time is going to affect how the water's flowing. So we had a pretty good notion of where the spring was. We were looking at the monument. We looked at the past records that Michelle provided. So we had some pictures to kind of look at and take some guesses. We came out here and did some geotechnical work, which means just digging some holes, looking at the soil, finding the water table, and just did a lot of investigations and kind of exploration of what's going on underground to get more data and just get a better understanding of what's happening and how we can go about uncovering this spring. We had a big challenge because we have a storm drain running right next to it.
Okay.
That storm drain is controlling a lot of where that water elevation is. What we can do in terms of exposing the spring, it's also a big factor because it needs to be actively flowing when there's a big rain event.
Sure.
It's going to be draining water off of Fontaine Road. So we couldn't take away that storm drain function. We need to leave that storm drain function in place and yet have a spring that's a different water source. It's going to have a little bit different behavior. So we had to squeeze those two things together on a small budget and make it all work.
And you did.
Yeah, we did. We pulled it off. Yeah.
So are you telling me, because I have no, are there two pipes or just the one pipe in the spring by itself?
There is the spring, which was geologically formed and part of the landscape.
Yes.
And at some point in recent history, maybe 40, 50 years ago, there was a storm drain pipe put in alongside that just comes right beside that spring.
Okay.
So we've got two sources of water and two behaviors of water, if you can imagine too.
I agree.
And right beside each other. So we had to do something that would accommodate both water sources without impeding any of the storm drain
different
function.
reasons.
Yes.
So then what led to kind of this interpretation? I mean, this is very interesting, the way you use the stone, and then to Michelle's point, you keep the water moving so that it's not a problem. So how did you arrive at this design then?
A lot of teamwork. We had a lot of good help from the Parks Department and just ourselves and figuring things out how we're going to make this happen. The dry stack stone technique is a historical technique. It's been around for hundreds of years, and some of the structures have lasted for that long.
They will.
And that's a method that would have been used by Henry Clay. It's the materials and the means that would have been used by pioneers. So we've got that historical element to the spring and how that would have been constructed 100 or 200 years ago. Plus, it also serves the function of what's going on with the spring. We needed a means to let that water come through from the spring.
Yes.
So with the dry stack technique, the water can come through the wall.
Even through the wall.
It can come right through the wall without hurting that or damaging that. And yet that wall is also going to protect some of those big stormwater flows from washing anything or eroding it out.
I just think it's so keen that you built it into the ground. Literally. I mean, it's stacked stone, but it's got earth behind it.
It is. We had the fortune of working with Cecil Aguilar. He is a master craftsman in the field of dry stack stonework.
This is service to that.
Yes, so you can really see his creativity and his craftsmanship. This is a really unique wall. It's got a curve to it. It's got some straight lines, but he did a fantastic job of just really fitting the needs of this particular site, making these different water elements work together, providing a structure and a surface that was historically relevant.
Yes.
And it's going to meet the needs of what we've got today, plus another 100 years or so.
I can tell you enjoy what you do.
I love it. I love it.
Well, we're
It's
glad
great.
to have had you work in the 5th District on this. We look forward to working with you again.
Yeah, certainly.
EcoGrow, Russ Turpin, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll be back to close out just here in a minute. I've been joined now by Don Wathen. He's a man of local color and history and a member of the neighborhood here, and an old friend of mine, old friend to a lot of people. Don, thank you for sitting down on camera with me here in the daylight.
Yeah, you've got me.
Well, talk a little bit. I mean, this park has been very important to the neighborhood for a long time, but more so lately. Let's just talk about that.
Well, I think what you have here is we've planted a lot of trees. We try to make it really a beautiful place for people to come down and sit and enjoy it. But now all of a sudden, we're historic with this spring.
That's true. It's a new,
it's a whole nother ball game as far as I'm concerned. And I think working with Ashland's Henry Clay's home, that they can send people here and a lot of people can come and enjoy it and learn what's going on.
But I mean, the neighborhood, through its own work, has come up with funds and did some interpretive work with signage and other things here before any of this came along.
Yes, sir.
So you all had a previous investment here, and we just kind of come along to kind of add to that in a very historic fashion.
We were very fortunate that the spring is still here.
You know, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
Because we just couldn't have done it without it. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, Michelle had the water test. They had the water testing. The water's pure.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we could. Not that I'm going to run down here and mix up something, but you could if you wanted to.
Well, that's true. But the neighbors are just astounded, and they've been all during this construction. They've been coming. My son took a picture and says, "Wow, look at this so far," and I'm going, "Look at that." So they bring the kids down. Everybody's excited about this now. They really
That's the best
are.
thing. That's the best thing. All right, well, we'll look to do more, but I always enjoy working with you in your neighborhood. We always do great things, but this has been a really great partnership, and thank you for your time with me today.
It's good to have you in the neighborhood.
Thank you so very much. I'm Bill Farmer for Lexplore. If you have a topic or a place of interest, we'll be glad to come and spend some time with you. Thank you very much.